I can't let nothing get in my way. I know you hear me when I pray. I know that I'm not perfect, yeah, I make mistakes. I need you to be there for me every step of the way, yeah, cause there's a blessing with my name on it. Hey, you know that I need it, Lord. Show me how to get it, Lord. I'm barely eating, Lord. Trying to feed my people, Lord, yeah, cause there's a blessing with my name on it. Ooh, hey, you know I receive it, yeah, I believe it, yeah. This year will be my year, I claim, hey, yeah, I claim, oh, yeah, yeah. This year will be my year, I claim it, yeah, I claim it. This year will be my year, yeah. I've been putting work in, yeah, trying to make my dreams come true. I know I get impatient, my family and my babies, they waiting on me to come through. Pressure on every level, issues I got several, trying not to settle. I wanna be successful, I can't be a failure, but it get kinda hard trying to keep it all together. There's a blessing with my name on it. You know that I need it, Lord. Show me how to get it, Lord. I'm barely eating, Lord. Trying to be my people, Lord. There's a blessing with my name on it. Hey, you know I receive it, yeah, I believe it, yeah, yeah. This year will be my year, I claim.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Yes. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Empowered Morning Show. Listen, I don't know if y'all know about it, but this is the day that we are about to celebrate. So I'm going to throw it on over to my girl Terry so she can tell you what's going on.
Listen, y'all. Listen, first of all, good morning, everybody. Happy, fabulous Friday, y'all. You already know that today is the day that the Lord has made, and we are rejoicing and we are glad in it. But y'all, I just have one thing to say. I got one thing to say, y'all. One thing to say. What I'm going to say is this. Hold up. Wait a minute. We got to put some power in it because, y'all, guess what? It is our girl, Coach P. Angela Jones's birthday. The big 42
It's your birthday.
So y'all, we are singing happy birthday, okay? Y'all put it in the chat. Make sure y'all hype her up because y'all know how much we love P. Angela Jones. So y'all put it in the comments. It's her birthday. It's her birthday. It's her birthday. It's her birthday. It's her birthday.
Birthday's going.
Y'all, we are extra hype. Y'all know we already turned up to the max on the Empowered Morning Show. We're gonna be extra turned today, okay? Because it is a birthday, y'all, and y'all know how we feel about birthdays around here. So, Coach P. Angela Jones, I'm about to turn it over to you, girl. Happy birthday! Happy birthday!
Listen, ladies, thank you so much. And can I just say, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be in the building, okay? Y'all know it's been a challenge, but God said, oh, not on this day. Not on this day. I'll make sure some things open up for you on this day. So listen, it's my birthday, but I still need to know what you're working with. What are you sipping on today? Now, I don't know if you've seen the Time 100 list, but baby, some of my favorite ladies are on that Time 100 list. Two of them in particular, Pinky Cole. Now, listen, I've loved Pinky Cole since her hair was not pink, okay? There was a time when her hair was not pink, and I've loved her that long. She's a CEO of Slutty Vegan, and she is on the Time 100. In addition to her, my other favorite person, Sarah Jakes Roberts, is in the Time 100. The Time 100 highlights people who are coming up next, people who have next in their spirit. They're carrying next in their belly. I said, you know what, God? Today we're sipping on that we're next. Not just they're next, but we're next. So if you are watching this broadcast, sis, bro, you're next. And your next is right now. So today is my birthday, but it's also the first day of the Jewish holiday, Rosh Hashanah. And this year, listen, I don't know how my birthday ended up on Rosh Hashanah this year. Listen, I'm just thanking God for it, because the theme and the undercurrent of the Jewish New Year this year is open doors. Listen, if you need an open door, today is your day. This is the beginning of a season of openness. And I'm just so grateful to be here today, to be listening with you, to be participating with you. So if you are watching this broadcast, you can hear me, you can see me, then I need you to share it, because you are the catalyst to an open door. You are the connection to someone else's openness. You can be used right now to open up someone's mind, eyesight, thought pattern. You can help them create a new path by giving them new information on this new day. But listen, we have some financial wellness tips from our girl Marcia, so just stay right here.
Good morning. Marshall Weeks here with you on Financial Friday. Do we really believe God loves us, or are we too focused on how much we love God? Deuteronomy 31:8 tells us God will never leave us nor forsake us, meaning he will never leave us physically or neglect us emotionally. He is concerned about our physical, mental, and emotional health. So why are we distracted by short-term financial problems when we serve a long-term, permanent, solutions-oriented God? Did we reach out to him first before we borrowed the money? Did we give him the opportunity to whisper in one of his angels' ears to sponsor us or pay for us? Did we discuss the job offer with him, or did we jump at the opportunity to make an extra $2 an hour doing double the work when he gave us the business idea, wanting to grow and stretch us, fine-tune our self-discipline so we could handle the multi-million-dollar dynasty and be his channel to bless others on their life journey? How quickly are we to say without saying, I got this, God, let me call you back? Then when we realize our limited vision and short-term solution cause some long-term problems. Let us not grow tired of seeking him on every financial decision, and let us never forget that our focus should always be on how much he loves us. So when our back is up against the wall, we know we have a Father who will always cause us to triumph on the other side of the challenge. We need to consider it pure joy to go through God's process on the way to financial blessings, rather than to suffer the consequences of a bad financial decision. You've been empowered because you should prosper.
Okay, first of all, mic check 1 2 1 2. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Can you see me? Excellent. Y'all, again, welcome to our show. If you were just tuning in, this is the Empower Morning Show. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure you like, share, and tag some folks in this broadcast. We love to talk in the comments here on the Empower Morning Show, so make sure you talk it up in the comments. Again, we are celebrating our girl, 1/5 of the amazing Fab Five, the Empowered Morning Show, Coach P. Angela Jones, for her birthday, y'all. So we are all the way turned up today. But it's also a special day because we have a very special guest, y'all. I am super excited about this guest. And in case you guys missed the memo, today is an hour-long show just because of this special guest. So if you're new to our show, we usually do 30-minute broadcasts. We're in, we're out. But today we have an extended special edition because of this special guest. Y'all, he has an incredible story. I can't wait for him to talk a little bit about his story today. And I'm sure he can't give the full scope in the time that we have, but he's going to give us enough, okay? And then if not, y'all know how we do. We're going to bring him back for round 2. But we have with us none other than Mr. Leon Walker. He is a motivational speaker. He is a narcissism coach. He has an amazing story. So I'm not even going to drop the nuggets of who he is because that's part of his story. So I'm going to let him share it. But I do want to say, if you are not familiar with Leon Walker, well, 1, you're about to get real familiar. But 2, you need to go follow him after this broadcast. And if you happen to have a second device right there, go follow him right now. Don't leave the broadcast, though. So if you only have the one device, wait till after the show. But if you have the second one there, go follow him right now. He is at Leon Walker Jr. on all social media. He's on TikTok. He's on Facebook. He's on YouTube. He's on Instagram. And y'all, he is making waves because he shares his story and he is very transparent. He's very real. He's very relatable. He doesn't hold back, okay? He tells you what you need to know. And he is out here changing the game for relationships because he's helping men and women to heal and to spot the red flags in their relationships. Okay, so y'all, welcome to the Empowered Morning Show platform, Mr. Leon Walker Jr. Woo!
Good morning. Can y'all see me?
Good morning, sir.
Y'all can't see me? What do I need to do? I'm not good at this stuff.
So right at the bottom of your screen, you should see a little bar. There's like a microphone, a camera. You're going to click the one for the camera.
Yeah, I just clicked it. Hold on. Oh, yeah. It says start using. I clicked, but it's for some. Oh, there we go. Okay.
There we go. Welcome to the show, Leon. Let me tell you, we are super excited to have you on the show. And as I told you, as we were booking you for the show, y'all, I ran across him several months ago. And I just happened across one of his videos. It popped up in my news feed, or maybe somebody shared it. And I listened to him, and I'm like, man, he is telling the truth, but in a way you need to hear it. You know what I mean? It's kind of a sobering truth, but he was telling it, and I don't even remember the video. But you know how you do. You click on one video, and then you just go down this rabbit hole of videos. So next thing I know, I was like 15 videos in, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this man is incredible. So I've been a fan and a follower ever since. And then last week, I think it was last week, y'all, when we did our conversation on narcissism, one of our viewers actually was watching the show and said, you know who would be a good guest? You all need to connect with Leon Walker Jr. And the name didn't ring a bell. But then when I went to the page to find the man to check him out to see if he'd be good fit for the show, as soon as he came, I said, oh my gosh, I know him. I'm already following him. He would be a great fit for the show. Let's get him in here. So he's here today, y'all, and we're so excited. Mr. Walker, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you tell us more about who you are and share your story.
All right. Good morning and happy birthday to Miss Piangela. That's a different name. I've never heard that name before, but it's pretty cool. Thank you for having me. I served in the Navy for 32 years. I retired in 2015. I have 3 adult children, 23, 27, and 28. I have a granddaughter, 4 godchildren, and a dog. I was married for almost 12 years. I've been divorced for almost 17 years now. I screwed up every relationship I've ever been in. Come from a very dysfunctional, very loving, caring, strong, supportive family. But by the age 11, I was damaged very bad. Age 5, I was molested by my cousins. By the time I was 7, I was watching porn, lost my virginity at 8 to my babysitter, and there was a male member in my family touched me from the ages of 10 to 12. There was never any penetration, but he damaged me even more. And so when my parents got divorced at 11 years old, I was pretty much on my own. I knew I was going to join the military by the time I was 9. My parents dropped out in the 9th grade, so college was never talked about. I had a struggle with going to church, reading the Bible, struggle with believing God. I didn't believe in God for a long time. And then I joined the military, and it was the best thing for me. And it was a lot of great things, a lot of bad things that happened. And so that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I'm an author of 3 books, working on my 4th book, which is going to be an autobiography. I speak, I help people, and that's me pretty much. Narcissism starts in the childhood based on neglect and abuse. I didn't even know that I was neglected or abused until I was 46. Not necessarily by my parents. My parents did the best they could. They were very strong parents, but they had their issues too. My dad died in 1999. He was an alcoholic. And my mother died in 2012. She died from a crack addiction. She had been smoking crack from 1985 to 2011, where she went to nursing home and then hospice, and she passed away. And so, I dealt with a lot. I've had a lot of great things. I used to blame my mother for everything. And so from that point on, I learned to blame my mother, which learned to blame women for everything in my life. I gave my dad all the credit, and I was wrong for that. I learned that I was wrong about that until I went into therapy, and that's when I started reconnecting with my mother through my therapist. I failed therapy twice, and the third time is when I stayed, and I needed that. Had I not gone through therapy, you all would be talking to either a 58-year-old whorish man, or I would probably be dead. And so there's a lot of things that went on. I had suicide ideations as a child. I had suicide ideations as an adult. Didn't know how to be a husband. Didn't know how to be a father. I struggled for a long time. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell. Hope that was good enough. It wasn't too long.
Well, really, you could keep going, Mr. Mr. Larry. You got about 5 more minutes. You can keep telling us more about your story. So
Yeah.
since you're here, if you want to go, and we're going to dive in and do a little bit of a conversation, but if you want to go into the narcissism piece and maybe talk about the relationship with your wife and just all of that, whatever you want to share about your story before we dive into the questions.
Yeah. And so I always knew there was something wrong with me when a young man or woman is molested. So, for instance, in my 2018, I was on a book tour. My first book called Broken. It's a memoir about my life. I learned a lot. I had to do a lot of research. Excuse me. And so I found out that 90% of the perpetrators for people that are molested and raped is somebody you know or love or trust. 90% of those people are somebody you love or trust, supposed to love or trust. 80% of the cases go unreported. My cases, and then 1 in 3 or 1 in 6 little boys, or 1 in 3 or 1 in 6 little girls will be raped or molested by the age of 18. I fell in all 3 of those categories. The reason why my case didn't go reported because I didn't report my babysitter. I didn't report my cousin. I was afraid of retaliation. I was afraid of people turning against me. I was afraid of getting beat up. There was a long time where I was afraid of women from my babysitters molesting me. I was afraid of women from my cousins molesting me and my babysitter taking my virginity. They were all 6 or 7 years older than I was. And so I had this lust for women. I was attracted to women deeply, but I also feared women. And so that really resonated with me more. It's like a controlling factor for me in relationships. And I just wanted to shake that. But when I did decide to shake it, I went too far. And so I became very verbally abusive. I was never physically abusive. I was mentally abusive, verbally abusive. I became very promiscuous, and I was a cheater. I became a serial dater. And so the first women I was afraid of were my cousins because of what they did to me. Then the fear just grew deeper with my babysitter. And then the fear grew even deeper when my parents got divorced. My mom sent me to live with a lady that I didn't know. And so I was dealing with discard and rejection at an early age. And I was also dealing with avoidance issues and projection issues at an early age. And so I didn't learn all this stuff until later in life about, hence, narcissism. So besides my family members, that me being afraid of those women, the other lady that I became afraid of was my kind of like my first and second girlfriend. It was a color thing for me. So in porn, I saw pale white women. So I became attracted to pale white women. And then I became addicted to dark-skinned black women that were very dark. And then I became addicted to brown-skinned women. And so the first brown-skinned woman I had, she gave me gonorrhea, and I was 15, 16 years old. The next brown-skinned woman I had was like 28, 29 years old. I was 15, and she was a prostitute. So I had my first prostitute at 15 years old. Keep in mind, my first prostitute at 15. And then at around 15 and a half, 16, I fell in love with a dark-skinned woman that just dominated me. Took me home to her house out of high school every day, cooked me a steak. She would snort cocaine, have sex with me, and send me home. She would keep me at her house from probably about 4 o'clock until 11 o'clock at night. And I did this for about a year. I was a junior in high school, so I was always controlled and dominated by women, brown-skinned women, dark-skinned women. And then I didn't date a white woman or didn't sleep with a white woman until I joined the Navy, which was I joined the Navy in 1983. And the first time I met a white woman and slept with a white woman was in Australia. And so it was just a host of mind shifts with me, from my dysfunctional childhood to my parents' divorce to the type of women I was attracted to and the ones that I saw. And so I got tired of being dominated by women. And I said, I got to change this. And then when I changed it, I was already suppressing love, and I already lacked empathy. And it was just like a fear factor for me. So that fear became anger, and anger became what I wanted as to control and dominate women. And so the love was gone, empathy was gone. And so hence narcissism. I developed that over a period of years. So it starts in childhood, and you can either get help. I should have been in therapy as a child, but instead I went within myself. I became very independent. Narcissistic people are very independent, but they need external factors to keep them going and motivated. Hence the supply, right? Excessive women for me, and for women that are narcissistic, excessive men for them. That grandiose mindset, that attention craving, that need to be overbearing, outgoing, self-centered, egotistical, arrogant, cocky. And so that was me in a nutshell. And it consumed me, and I enjoyed it, and that's who I become. And so this is why people say it's so hard for narcissistic people to change. It's impossible. It's not impossible. It's hard, because why do I want to change who I become? You think I want to go back to that broken little boy? I peed in the bed from the kindergarten to the 7th grade, and I didn't find out that bedwetting was a symptom of being abused. I didn't know that. I sucked my thumb from the kindergarten to the 7th grade. That's why I have an overbite. I was scared of girls. I was scared of the dark. I had low self-esteem. I didn't have any confidence. So the man that you're talking to now today is a very strong, outgoing, outwardly over the top, overbearing type of guy. But that broken little boy is still in me. But I understand who he is now. So I fought not going back to being broken, dysfunctional, abused, beat up, left out, left behind, called names, being stupid, dumb. I refuse to go back to that little boy. So that's why it's hard for people to change when we ultimately become somebody that we want people to like and love and admire.
Wow.
I know it's a lot.
No, look, it was a lot. Did I not tell you all that he has such an incredible story? And I promise this is like just a little tidbit. But when you watch the videos and things, and just kind of over a period of time, he talks about his story and who he is and just things like that. In his videos, and so that's why I'm saying you guys got to make sure that you go follow him. So of course I have questions. I know also questions. I'm over here taking notes, so I'm gonna drop my couple of questions, and then I'm going to turn it over to the rest of the Fab Five for y'all to jump in here. But one of the very first things you say, and first of all, thank you so much for sharing your story, and you were so precise and to the point, and you you just hit all the bullet points. So we appreciate it. But one of the very first things you said was that you came from a loving and dysfunctional home. And so that stuck out to me, because we don't typically hear those two words together like that. Loving and dysfunctional. So can you talk about what that looks like, or how were you able to recognize that it was loving and dysfunctional at the same time?
Right. So what happened was, there's a lot of dynamic shifts, a lot of brain shifts. My grandfather was short. Okay. My mother's side of my family are short and mean people. My grandfather's like, they were. I'm telling you all, the things I'm about to tell you, it's going to be funny and mind blowing, but it's going to be like, it makes sense. So my grandfather's like 5'3", like 125 pounds, little dude. My grandmother's 5 foot and like 100 pounds, little. So my mother was little, but she was thick. My brother was short and he was heavy. His dad was heavy. My dad was 6'1" and like 230. He played football in the Army and he boxed. Okay. My dad's side of my family are rather thick, tall, above average height, thick people. Very, very competitive, very driven. My mother's side of the family they all had a very addictive personality. And I learned this through therapy. I learned this through research. I learned this through studying the things that I saw and that I remember. My mother's father played the drums, and he made his own drums. He smoked a lot of cigarettes, and he was mean. All right. He abused my grandmother. He was very verbally abusive. I can remember just like it happened yesterday. I would sit at the kitchen table with him, and he would bang on the table, ask my grandmother for the hot sauce and pepper and his cigarettes, and he would call her names, and she would just be scurried and running around. And he didn't treat my mother like that, but my grandmother treated my mother like that. They fought in the street. And I didn't find this out till about 5 years ago. My grandmother died in '08. My mother never got a chance. She never went to her funeral. My mother died in 2012. And so my grandmother didn't know that her daughter died. My mother knew that her mother died. My grandfather died in 1979. My parents got divorced in 1979. My mother's brother got killed in 1977. So from 77 to 79, and then from 79 to 1982, my mother lost 6 people. Through the divorce, she lost her husband. Through the divorce, she lost her husband and me and my sister. And then through death, she lost her brother and her father. So she lost one person on the average of every 6 months from 1979 to 1982. I'm sorry. And so she jumped into smoking crack. My mother's brother was the one that was touching me. And so, I remember exactly what happened. And then when he got murdered, to me, it was funny. So I learned he left me with a gift of lacking empathy. That those things happen in the childhood. We want to talk about why they happen, because when I was being molested, when I was being touched by him, I couldn't take up or defend myself. So I developed anger issues. He was bigger than me. He was older than me. Everybody that touched me, everybody that abused me were bigger than me, taller than me, older than me. And so back to my family dynamics. My dad was very extreme. My mother had a very addictive personality. My dad had a very extreme personality. So everything he did was over the top, overbearing. Those are traits, narcissistic traits that I have as well. I'm addicted. I have a very addictive personality. I have a very extreme personality. So if when I'm doing something, whether it's cheating, whether it's porn, whether it was drinking, this is Leon before therapy, I go all in, and I don't have a care in the world about anything or anyone except for what I want right then. If it's 3 women, I want 3 women. If it's alcohol, it's alcohol. If it's porn, it's porn. And at that time, nobody matters but me and what I want. And so that's including my children. So when women say, how can he just wake up and leave? How could he cheat? And how could he not come back and see his kids? I hear it all the time. They don't care at that moment. Their mind is extreme and addictive. That's what they want at that time. Even if it's being a newlywed, if he's narcissistic and he's a cheater, and he's a serial dater, without talk therapy is not going to work. I didn't have talk therapy until I was 46. So the dynamics in my family on both sides, I have a lot going on. I was in the middle of all of that. I'm the only one of my brothers and sisters on my father's side. I'm the only one, both, but my brother and my sister don't have any kids. They weren't never married. My sister's 57 and my brother's like 65. My other brother's 63. But my brother and sister that I've lived with don't have kids and never been married. I was the only one that tried. So I didn't have any morals. I didn't have any standards when it came to being a husband. I had great men in my life. I had great men in my family, but they were womanizers. They were hustlers. They were thieves. They were, fighters, right? They were abusers of many things. A lot of men in my family were abusers of women. I had a cousin that got almost killed by a woman. I was almost killed by 2 women, and those things I was attracted to, I was addicted to. So I've seen a lot of great things. I've seen a lot of bad things on both sides of my family. My grandfather wound up dying in 1982 at work. My mother's brother died. He got murdered. He got shot in the mouth with a shotgun. My grandmother died of an aneurysm and dementia. My father died as an alcoholic in 1999. My mother passed away in 2012 from crack addict. So I had a lot going on, hence the narcissism, the lack of empathy, not wanting to love, avoidance, rejection, projection, dejection, deceiving, lying, ghosting, gaslighting, cheating. I had it all. So there was no way I was going to wind up being an empath. It just wasn't in the cards for me. And so I became Leon. I became narcissistic, and that's what I wrapped my mind around. That was my success.
Wow. Everybody in the comments is saying thank you so much for being transparent. Thank you for sharing your story. So as I told y'all, it really is a powerful story. And I think the powerful part of it is the overcoming. And, as you talk about now, which one of the things I'm going to talk about in a second. But my other question was about the serial dating, because I'm sure a lot of people's antennas went up when you talked about serial dating, because a lot of people do date serially. I am not one of them, but there are people who, like, hey, I'm just going to date everybody till somebody seems to be the right one. And so, but you mentioned that was an issue for you. So can you talk more about that and why that was
And
not
so
the right idea?
serial dating came from my first love with my cousins. And so that's why love to me was such a dysfunctional, distracting type of thing, something I didn't want. So that's where I felt love from. I felt love from my mother, because she was my first dead mother. I was a Cub Scout. She took me to the swimming pool. She took me to football practice. My dad worked at Ford, so he was gone a lot, and he drank a lot. And I was afraid of my dad. Every time my dad come home from age 4 to 11, I'd pee on myself. It was there was a lot going on. So what was the question again? I lost train of thought.
Yeah, no problem. So the question is about being a serial dater.
Okay. And so I started off with being promiscuous by virtue of women molesting me. So my cousins were my first love. My babysitter was my second love. And to me, it was like I had 3 women. That's hard to believe, but that's what I thought. And so, and then, okay, here's something else. My brother, my mother's bedroom was adjacent to the bathroom. And everything I'm telling y'all is so vivid. It's like I have to relive it because it's there. It never goes away. The bathroom was adjacent to my mother's bedroom. So my brother drilled a hole right at like toilet level. And every Friday night, my mother and father would have these parties. And the women would come upstairs and, y'all go in the bathroom, you adjust your bra, you put on makeup, you swing your hair around, you help each other, whatever. Use the restroom. And I would sit at that glory hole for hours and watch the women come in. I became a peeping Tom. I was about 8, 9 years old, but it went on for years. And so serial dating, everything I saw through that hole, everything I saw in porn, I wanted to be a part of. I could play sports. I could ride motorcycles and mini bikes and go karts and jump rope and all that stuff and climb trees and climb garages, which I did. But I was consumed with being lustful and attracted to women, and it never went away. Nobody taught me how to make it go away. They taught me to have more women and be a womanizer, right? And that's what I learned. The serial dating started from what I saw through that glory hole, what I saw in porn, and I wanted to emulate that. I studied women inside of porn to hurt women outside of porn. Okay, and so hence my addiction, my lust, my greed to women. And narcissistic people always deflect. So what did I do? I blamed everybody else for my addiction to women, my cousins, my babysitter, and my brother. And so when I had an abundance of women going into serial dating, it was something that somebody taught me. It wasn't something that I chose to do. I was made to do this. So this is what's supposed to be done. Why would I have one woman? I can have 3 or 4. I had them as a child. My cousins and my babysitter were my first girlfriends, my first love. That wasn't love. That was infatuation. And that was lust. So all of my relationships were based on infatuation and lust. There was no love. And so they say narcissistic people can't love. They lack empathy. That's 100% correct. But it starts in their childhood. And so narcissistic people are not born. They're developed by virtue of being a product of a certain environment. I had great parents, the loving and caring. We had food. We went on trips. My dad was a provider and protector, but my parents fought. That's the dysfunction part. We had good Christmases. That was the loving part. My parents fought. My grandmother and mother fought during Christmas. I see my grandmother slap my mother in front of me when I just wanted some of the greens that were on the pot on the stove, and my mother gave them to me. As soon as she put the greens in my mouth, my grandmother slapped her. And so that was the dysfunctional part. We had toys in my grandmother's house. That was the loving part, right? My grandfather took us to get ice cream. That was the loving part. But when he got on us, when he screamed around the house, that was the dysfunctional part. My uncle used to bully me. That was the dysfunctional part, so I was doomed. And you know what? My therapist said, I'm surprised you're still alive. Yeah, I said, I am too. So I had to find other things to keep me driven and motivated. I was a really, really internally weak man. Externally, you think I was strong, but internally I had that love and that dysfunction. But I resonated more with dysfunction because love scared me, and love was liking my cousins and my babysitter and having sex. So the dysfunction is what made me become driven and passionate and compassionate about taking care of Leon, and that's what I did.
Amazing.
Wow. Thank you for answering. I'm going to let Regina jump in here. So, Regina.
Hello. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. How you doing? I appreciate your transparency. I really do. I appreciate your honesty. It's amazing when you could actually sit behind this camera and tell your story so fluently, knowing that the trauma that you went through, it is a sign of strength, even though the brokenness that you had to go through. I love your story, even though, and it sounds as like maybe not the right word to say, but I love your story because a lot of people need to hear these traumatic things, that even in our worst traumatic things, that there's something in our mind that if we could over conquer those things and still be able to tell the story. You, my friend, you was gifted with this traumatic trauma, so you could be a blessing to a lot of people, because a lot of people need to hear this, and a lot of people need to be healed from this, and they don't understand. It's just a gift that the Most High God gave you to understand it and be able to come out and walk in it and be able to tell the story and not be broken and not been here. I understand your story because your story sounds really familiar. So I give all my hats off to you, because you know what? We're one of the few that can still stand here and have a sound mind.
All right. Yeah.
Does that make sense to you, brother? Does that make sense to you?
Yes,
right?
It does.
Because when you said you disconnect, you had to disconnect, because if you didn't disconnect, you wouldn't be sitting here.
Right. That's true. 100%.
So I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate your truth. I know where you're coming from, brother. Literally, I know where you're coming from, and it's amazing to see that. Hey, to stand here and help people, because that's what it's about. Your story needs to be heard, because there's a lot of people that do not understand what you're talking about, and a lot of times you're the only one that really understands. You see what I'm saying? But it's a blessing. You broke it down very elementary for people too. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate that too.
And this is why I love platforms like this, and this is why I love the story that he shares, because by him sharing his story, he helps so many. I mean, we even see in the chat right now how people are saying that they're being helped. And the things that you're saying, oh, this happened to me, and that led to this, and then this happened, and that led to this. The way you're connecting the dots of how the things that happened to you and around you kind of informed the things that happen later in your life, because you're able to connect those dots. It's helping other people to see and recognize those signs and things that they're experiencing now, and it's helping them to connect the dots. So it's incredible. Okay, I know Angela, y'all can jump in here too. We're just having a conversation now, so we can just talk.
It's a question in here, Terry, I had pulled up from one of the viewers. They want to know, Leon, is there a common thread of the characteristics of the women that you were attracted to?
Yes and no. When for me, as far as being a promiscuous man, I could look at a woman and like two things about her, and I would have to have her. It would be a combination of her lips, her breasts, her buttocks, right? Because my cousins had nice lips and my babysitter had nice lips, so it was lips for me. And my mother's female friends had nice lips, and they all had short hair. So the short hair was like, it got me. And all of my ex-girlfriends had short hair. My ex-wife, I would beg her to cut her hair. She would cut it every 10 years. I'm like, every time you cut your hair, I just want to be around you even more. When she let it grow, I was like, yeah. So it was a hair thing, right? It was a lip thing. But there were various things that's a great question. There were various things that would attract me to women too. It could have been their skin color. It could have been, if she was very dark, it was a contrast for me. If she was very, very pale, it was a contrast for me that attracted me. It was always a color or a shape that attracted me to women. I dated many women, different sizes. It didn't matter to me, but they didn't understand where I come from. And that was locked into my mind, my psyche for, as since I was a child. And so the having the women that shaved down there, I didn't like that because I didn't know, had never seen it. When I was looking through the glory hole, I saw the grown women that were hairy down there. So that turned me on too. Hairy armpits was something that I liked. I didn't like women that shaved. I didn't experience women that shaved until I was in the Navy. And that was in like 1983, 1985 when I first met a woman that shaved her vulva area and her armpits. I was like, it just looked weird to me because I was always attracted to a lot of hair down there and under their arms. And again, my friends like, man, what the hell's wrong with you? I couldn't explain it to anybody. And so there was like a likeness with these women. But the main thing that they all had in common were I was attracted to women that were broken and dysfunctional like I was. They were easier to deal with. They were easier to understand, and they would understand me, and they wouldn't judge me. They wouldn't make me work so hard. My ex-wife wasn't dysfunctional. My ex-wife come from a wholesome, loving family where her parents were still married when we got married at that time, 25 years. But I went into that relationship because I didn't want anybody else to have her. When I met her, I had 3 or 4 other women. I was 25 years old and I was a Navy recruiter. And I became greedy, again, narcissism. I wanted everything and everybody. So I didn't want anybody to have her. So when we got married, I wasn't ready to be married. I just wanted to take her off the market, but I was still on the market. And so my ex-wife was a strong, foundational woman with character, integrity, and standards. And I wasn't used to that. My dad didn't like women that had standards. My dad liked women that would smoke, drink, fight, have sex, and start over. And I was addicted to the same type of, and attracted to the same type of women because that's what I saw. My mother had great friends. They were workers, they were wives, they were mothers. But when my dad me and my sister got custody of us, we moved to the inner city, deep in the inner city, and I started seeing women that my dad liked, and I started liking those women too. So the difference is I didn't want the women that were strong and had themselves together and went to college. I wanted the women that had a couple of kids, some scars, some wounds, didn't have a degree, that would 100% had to totally rely on me because I had to be in control and in power. And in therapy, she told me, she said, you like women to rely on you, but when they rely on you, you become extremely angry. And she was true. She was telling the truth. I don't know where she got that from. I may have told her, I don't remember, but she was right. And so I had to have women that needed me and not that I needed them. And then when they did need me, I didn't like that they needed me. And I would use as an excuse to cheat and walk away and leave them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All these things come out in therapy.
Right. Right. This is amazing conversation. I just want to break in and ask some questions specifically about marriage. My husband and I are marriage coaches. And I would like to know how narcissism showed up in your marriage. You said you have an ex-wife, so you're no longer married. Is that correct?
Right. That's correct.
Okay. And then if you could talk about that, and then also, are you dating now? And what does that look like now? So marriage, and then where you're at now.
So marriage was tough for me because I didn't know what a husband was supposed to be. I saw my dad buy, protect, provide. I saw my dad do that. And so I could provide and protect. But when it came to loving and holding hands and cuddling, no, I didn't know how to do any of that. I wasn't aware of it. It didn't sit well with me. I was uncomfortable when women wanted to cuddle. It's like, man, look, can we cuddle? That was like a task for me. It's like cuddle. Right. And I felt when a woman wanted to hold hands, I felt smothered. Didn't like it. So my wife suffered. The skin is the largest organ of the body, right? The skin is the largest organ. And I starved a lot of women because I wasn't a touchy-feely type dude. It was like, kiss, let me touch you, let me grab, go have sex, and it's it. It wasn't no love making. I wasn't about that. That was too deep for me. That was too much of a deep connection. I was afraid of that. I was like, oh no, we're not love making. And when women say, man, I love you, I had a lot of women tell me they love me. I'm like, don't tell me you love me, because if you do, I'm gonna leave. And I wound up leaving. I walked away from a lot of women. But the marriage part, I didn't know how to be married. I didn't have a clue. My brother was married. My other brother was never married. My uncles were married. Some weren't married. They were cheating men in my family. I never knew of cheating women in my family. I'm not saying they didn't cheat, but it was always the men. And so, cool, that's what we do. We get married, we still cheat, or we don't get married and we womanize. So marriage was a struggle for me. I didn't know about vows. I didn't know about holy matrimony. I didn't know about, till death do us part. None of that. It didn't matter to me. I lost my marriage, my vision of marriage when my parents got divorced. But again, like I said, I wanted to keep her, so I married her just so would nobody else get her. She's a pretty lady, beautiful hair, nice lips, nice breasts, had a degree, didn't have a lot of bodies. I didn't deserve her at all. Dating now, I'm not dating now. I have a lot going on. I stay busy. I'm ready to date. I'm capable of dating. I'm mentally healthy, ready to date. I understand myself a lot more. I'm a lot fair now, more fair than I was ever in my life. I'm more patient. I'm more understanding. I don't react. I don't act. Because my therapy told me I was in therapy from 2014, 2015. It's like, you need to stop dating for a little while. And I was like, what? That's like telling me to stop eating chicken wings. I can't do that, but I needed to because I was always going from one relationship to the next and taking my baggage from that relationship to the next relationship and expecting. It was insanity. I was the same. I was with different women expecting the same outcome or a different outcome, doing the same thing over and expecting a different outcome. But I was the same person. I wasn't changed. I wasn't different. I wasn't any different. So dating, yes, I'm capable. I'm able. I want to date. I want to be exclusive. I don't want that being promiscuous anymore. I don't like cheating. I don't want to lie. I don't want any of that. When I was doing all those things, it was easy for me to be that person because that's who I was. That's what felt better. That's what felt safer for me. To cheat, to lie, and to fake, to gaslight, to ghost, to give the silent treatment. That felt powerful to me. To love a woman, to hold a woman, to caress a woman, to cuddle with a woman, I felt very, very vulnerable, and I didn't like it. I could get women, but I couldn't keep them.
That's right. Thank you.
So let me ask you a question. I know that in everything you're talking about, you said you really started therapy late. What was the thing that made you decide it's time for me to go and talk to somebody?
So I always knew there was something wrong with me. My PTSD started in 1987, but it wasn't found until 2018. So I was reckless through my whole military career and didn't care because the first 10 years is you smoke, you drink, you fight, you womanize, and you go to work and you start over. I was like, cool. Everything associated with PTSD, anger, can't sleep, blowing up, getting mad with people, nightmares, all that associated with PTSD, that was my norm. Anything outside of that was abnormal to me, but it should have been normal. And so what was the question again? I'm sorry. That happens every now and then to me.
That's fine. I was asking what prompted you to go ahead and seek out therapy.
There we go. And so there was an event that when you all get a chance, look up the USS Stark. USS Stark. There was a bombing on a ship in 1987, and 37 men were killed. And I was 22 years old. With my fire party, we had to go over there and rescue the ship. We saved the ship, but the men were dead. So we found heads and fingers and feet. And that started my PTSD. And I didn't know how bad off I was until 2018 when I felt like I was losing my mind. I went back into the hospital. But anyway, my first time talking to a psychotherapist, I don't even know why I went to the office. I remember it was 2014, but I don't know who sent me. Somebody sent me. When you're in the military, you're held accountable. When you're told to go through anger management classes, you have to go. If it's 16 weeks, you have to go and you have to finish, you have to complete it. If you don't, you get in trouble. When you're going through when you're going through drug abuse classes, which I didn't have problem with drugs. When you're going to alcohol abuse class, when you're going to domestic violence for anger issues classes, you have to complete those courses and classes. In the military, you are held accountable. When I started therapy, I walked in and walked out with a psychotherapist. When I went back to psychiatrist, I walked in and walked out. And every time you walk in and walk out, they report it to your command, your job, your boss. So every time I would go back to work, they go, hey, we got an email from Dr. So-and-so said you came over there with a bad attitude, you left. I'm like, you can't get away from it. In the civilian world, you don't have to go, or you go and walk out. They don't care. Nobody's going to report it. You're not held accountable. And so through other people noticing there was something wrong with me, maybe somebody called on me. I don't know, but I went and I went and I left and I left and I went back. And then when I walked into the third psychiatrist's office, she said, "I'm not going to hurt you, Mr. Walker." And I was like, So those other ladies that were psychiatrists and psychotherapists, and this lady was a psychotherapist, when I walked into their office, they didn't say anything to me. I needed help, but I knew I needed help. And I was begging, I was crying for help silently, but they didn't. They just like, "Okay, hey, come in, fill out this paper." Like they didn't care. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna show y'all how not to care. I was very rude. I was very disrespectful in the office, and I would walk out just so that I can piss them off on purpose. And I knew after the second time they're gonna call my job, and they did. So the third time I said, "Let me try to work on this. Let me see if Leon can get better. Let me see if I can change my ways." Because I was, trust and believe, I was extremely happy with who I was. As dysfunctional as I was still getting promoted, awarded, and rewarded. I was making $120,000 a year. I was leading a lot of people. To me, there was nothing wrong with me. But my wife, ex-wife, was unhappy. My ex-girlfriend was unhappy. My kids were unhappy. My kids feared me. So I was like, you know what? Let me go on and sit down with this little 4', 11-inch, 120-pound white lady. Let me see what she can do with me. And she got to me. She said, "I'm not going to hurt you." And I was like, "Well, what made you say that?" She said, "Because you came here, I could see it all over your face. You were afraid to let go. You're afraid to let your guard down. Well, we're going to talk, and I'm going to have you in here for a while because," and later on she said, "You need intensive inpatient care." And I was like, "What the hell is that? I don't know what the hell that is. You're going to be in here for a while, And so that's when it started. And then when I started liking her, she was approachable. When I felt comfortable and I didn't feel disrespected, I was like, "All right, I'm gonna give you Leon. Then I'm gonna tell you what Leon is all about." And then it started, and I got more and more comfortable with her, and that was it. So my wife, ex-wife, didn't know what I'm telling you all now. Nobody found this out until I wrote my first book in 2018. I was married for 12 years. My wife had no idea none of this existed in me. She knew something was wrong. She used to always tell me, "You dysfunctional, blah, blah, blah. I don't want our kids to wind up like you," and that pissed me off. So I stayed dysfunctional on purpose. I was already successful in the military. Why should I change and not be dysfunctional to make her happy? I'm happy being dysfunctional. Since that's what you call it, that's what it is. That's what it's going to be. My ex-girlfriend suffered too. Every woman I've ever been with suffered, but me.
Wow. There's some questions in here. I'm going to try to get to them quickly before we get off. But a couple of people wants to know, did you ever apologize to the women that you hurt?
Right. So that's a good question. I get that a lot. One of my ex-girlfriends, she said, "Leon, do you realize you never apologized?" I was like, "For what?" And it just rolled off my tongue. For what? What am I going to apologize for? Whatever I said to you is your fault. Whatever I did to you is your fault. She clearly said, "You never apologized." This was years after we broke up. And I was like, "Really?" She said, "No, you don't remember. Do you ever remember apologizing to me?" I was like, "Nope." You know what, ladies? I could not fix myself. I could not fix my mouth to say I was sorry. I could not. That's why I know narcissistic people. I could deal with them. I play around with them, diagnose or getting close to being diagnosed, having 8 traits or 7 traits. I know exactly what to do with them. I know that they can't apologize. It is so hard. It hurts. It's like telling me I need to, "Leon, go get a pair of pliers and pull out your 2 front teeth." Oh, no, that's going to hurt. But apologizing drove me nuts. Why should I apologize? So I got to tell you, I'm sorry. Feeling defeat like that was such a horrible thing, but I was wrong. And I remember, you know who else didn't apologize? My father. I remember him distinctly saying, "I ain't apologize. I don't apologize for what, But yeah, so I started going back years later and apologizing to some women. And some of them didn't believe me, said, "It's not genuine. It's not you. You just saying." They were right. I was just going through the motions. But now I can sit down and listen. So here's the thing with me. It depends on how you approach me. Narcissism, it just doesn't go away. This is who I am. But I can manage it and regulate my emotions, feelings, and my anger and how I respond. But I also demand a certain level of respect too. But I have to give that to get that. And so some women approach me in a different way. And instead of me blowing up and calling names, I'll just say, "Okay, well, we can't have this kind." I'm more polite, But to answer your question, I did apologize. I saw my ex-girlfriend from 1991 last week, and we laughed and talked about the way I used to be and all this stuff. And it's funny now. It wasn't funny then. So yeah, I've apologized. I probably still owe, not just the women, but some of the men that I led in the Navy. I've been calling and apologize. I haven't done it in a few months, but I started reaching out to them too. Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
And I know there was one other question. Sparkle, who is actually the other part of the Fab Five, she asked, how do you advise other men to get therapy? So if you could just hit that real quick. I know we're almost out of time, but that's an important question.
Yeah. Don't be afraid of the truth. That's the thing with these men. They don't want to hear it. It's okay to go in there, my brother, and hear it. It is okay, because you're going to change that moment you walk in out. Within that hour, you're going to make some strides. You're going to make some changes. You're going to understand yourself. You're going to want to be closer to your wife. You're going to be closer to your kids. I felt like I lost 100 pounds every time I came out of there. I went in there like smelling like cigarettes and chicken grease. Every time I go, before I go, I'm like, I don't smoke anything now. I'm so free. It's like almost scary. But before I go, and she's like, well, can you not come in here smelling like cigarettes? I was like, lady, you tripping. Saying it to myself. But I liked her, so I wasn't rude. I was like, yes, ma'am. I turned into a little boy in there. She's like my mother. I'd always yearned for my mother. I lost my mother 3 times: when my parents got divorced, when she started smoking crack, and when she died. So I was always yearning for a mother in my life. Just listen to me. Just be a mother. Just nurture me. Just talk to me like I'm a little cool, good little boy. I used to be a good little boy. I was a good little boy. I was. And it became like unfair to be this monster, because people turn me into this monster. I'm talking about Leon before therapy. I didn't raise my hand. Hey, I want to be a monster. I want to hurt women. I want to cheat. I want to lie. I want to gaslight. I want to ghost. I was a cool little boy, right? At one time. And then when I started getting tired of it, I'm like, oh, that little boy gone. Now y'all gonna see. And so that's how I went through life, But therapy is it's the best thing that ever happened to me, because in therapy I was able to reconnect with my mother, and she had been dead for a year at that time. I went into therapy. My mother died in 2012. In 2013, I had a heart attack. In 2014, I went into rehab, January. And the same month, I started NPD therapy. So I had a very heavy heart. I had a very dysfunctional mind at 46 years old. And I was still pushing, but I was still holding on to that broken little boy that was defeated, that was bullied, that was molested, that was taken advantage of, right? That was dysfunctional, that was broken, that was given up, that was discarded. I was still holding on to him because I had anger. And so in therapy, she said, Mr. Walker, next week, we're going to talk about forgiveness. And I was like, forgive who? I hadn't let go of my anger from my childhood from age 5 until 46. I had that anger for 41 years. So therapy will also allow you, as Piangela knows, marriage counseling, you have to forgive, you have to let go, you have to release.
Over and over.
Yeah, I didn't know how to forgive nobody. I knew how to forget. I forgot people to hurt people. I wasn't apologizing. And so I was dealing with avoidance issues. I was dealing with being emotionally unavailable. And I enjoyed all of that. My dysfunction was normal to me. Not being dysfunctional was abnormal. My brain had operated in the opposite since I was 5. But I was still able to go forward and be successful in the military because I wanted to impress people. I wanted to have confidence. I want to be secure because I was insecure and I didn't have confidence. That's why people say, well, narcissistic people never change. You can't. You know what? I didn't have to be the person I became. I really didn't. I still could have been successful and nice and loving and caring. But I was like, oh, hell no. That's too, somebody going to damage me. Somebody going to abuse me again. And at Leon at 25 and 30, 35, 40, I love me some me. Because I was protected from perpetrators. And then I would see them. I would see women that was abusing men. I would see men that was abusing women. That could have been me. And I always say, man, it sucks to be you. Instead of teaching people how to do it, now, yo, my man, go through therapy. Hey, brother, listen, I had a phone call this morning at 3:00. And I know I had to be up here with you all at 6. I'm not tired. That brother called me because he was hurting. He had been drinking, and he was in a dark place. And he's about to do some bad things. 3:00 this morning. And I talked to him for an hour. And he's okay now. He needs therapy. I'm gonna help him out until he get there, but it's okay to go through therapy, my brother. I loved it. I go back because I wanted to see if Leon could be somebody better. And I talk every now and then in third person. I want to see if Leon can do something better, be somebody better, and let go of his past. And I did.
I love that. Well, Leon, we are out of time, and y'all, I don't know how this happens that a whole hour goes by so quickly. The 30 minutes go by like that, so we extend it to an hour, and then it's like, oh, we need like another hour, maybe 2. But Leon, in the time that you have been with us, I want to say that I know you have blessed a lot of people. You've helped a lot of people. They're saying it in the chat, so we know it's true. But we also want to say thank you for coming on and sharing your story. What I love about it is that you were very open and honest and transparent. But to me, what I see is a story of transformation, a story of healing. That, even though you say that the narcissism doesn't go away, but you learn how to manage it. It still shows to me it's a story of grace, and a story of God's grace, and a story of just realizing and experiencing the power of healing through therapy, through coming to terms with the things that happen and how to make it work for you now. So as I said earlier, your story is incredible. We want to say thank you so much for being a part of the Empowerment Morning Show. I'm going to ask you to stick around. I know it's early for you, but if you can stick around for 2 more seconds in our backstage. So don't leave when we end this broadcast. Just stay right here with us.
Okay.
But for everybody else, thank y'all for tuning in. Again, you can follow him at Leon Walker Jr. Is that right, Leon? At Leon Walker Jr.
Leon R. Walker Jr. And then you can Google me. My retirement ceremony comes up. My books come up. So I'm not hard to find.
He's not hard to find. I told you, I found him real quick. So he's not hard to find. He's on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. He's everywhere, y'all. He does have books out. I did see that he is in his 6th month of being in the top 100 bestsellers on Amazon. So make sure y'all help him stay at the top 100, okay, for another 6 months. Anyway, Leon, thank you so much for being a part of the show. We're a little bit over time, but we're going to go ahead and close out in prayer. But I do want, again, to say thank you so much for coming to be a part of the show. You have been a tremendous blessing to all of us here at the Empowerment Morning Show today. P. Angela, happy birthday again, my dear. We hope that you go and do some amazing, great things. We know that you have an announcement that you have been talking about all week long that you are ready to share with the world. So y'all look out for her announcement later today. Make sure you're connected to her. Make sure you are connected to Leon R. Walker Jr. on all social media. And we're going to go ahead and close out in prayer. Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this time together, Lord God. And we pray that through this broadcast, Lord, that somebody's eyes were open, somebody's mind was alerted, and somebody's heart was healed, Lord God. We thank you that we know even through the airwaves, Lord, you are able to provide healing. And so we thank you for that, Lord God. And we pray that as we go throughout our weekend, Lord, that you will protect, cover, heal, and do all the things you do so well, Lord God. And we thank you for being such an amazing, good Father. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Y'all go have an amazing weekend. We'll see you right back here on Monday, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Empowered Morning Show. Y'all have a great weekend.
I'll be right here.
I claim it. This year will be my year. This year will be my year. I claim it. I really believe it in my heart. This year will be my year. I claim it, yeah. I claim it, 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 yeah. I claim it, 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 yeah.